Good people. Most of you are well-mannered, and the people online and the ones here. So we will take 5 questions. 5 questions, simple questions, and no controversial questions, because I trust you are good people. Oh, okay. All right. So if you have a question, there's a roving mic. Only one question, or not. Can you want to go? Is there any question online? Anyone submitted through Q&A? No. No, good. Okay. So who has a question? Voero has a question. Voero. Where's Voero? Voero. Good. Voero alone. All right. That's good. Voero, go. Shoot.
Morning, sir.
Morning.
My question is from Proverbs 12, verse 14. And I just want to ask what's the
12
meaning
verse 14.
What's the meaning of the text? It says
12, 14.
From the fruits of their lips, people are filled with good things, and the work of their hands brings them reward. So my question is basically, does this text have anything to relate with positive confession? Like if you confess good things, will it bring good things into your life? Now, I'm not talking about speaking into existence, but just the kind of confessions that you make, if it bring good things to your life.
But you're not talking about... No, help him. Yeah, you're not? What happened to the mic now? It's not... Yeah. Wait, hold on.
Speaking into existence, I'm talking about positive confession.
Okay, so positive confession would then be what? Explain.
Like, maybe the way my outlook of life is just confessing positive things, always grateful, trying not to see negativity in every single thing, just that outlook of seeing positivity in every single thing.
All right. Okay, good. Any other question? Tola? Nice dress, by the way.
Okay, so the phrase, but ye are gods, how do we relate to that as Christians? Because technically it's in the Bible, so.
Twice.
So.
Twice in the Bible, not once.
Yeah.
Okay, what do we say? That one is very simple. Do you identify yourself as part of the ye or not? If you identify yourself as the ye, what did he say about the ye? They are. And so what's hard? Are you ye? You're asking, can you atone for your sins? Did he say, ye are God who atones for your sins? These people, you complicate your life. That's the problem. All right, we'll answer the questions. Okay. Anybody else? Chika. Okay, not Chika. Chika first. Okay. After Chika, then him.
Okay, my question...
Nice glasses.
Thank you.
Ooh.
My question is about saying the truth in love, right?
All right.
Communication is a problem most of the time, because how you say something and the way you say something usually matters. So, saying the truth, if you're unable to say something in a way that will come out as loving, is it better to just not say it for a period? And then I noticed that Jesus Christ spoke in parables a lot. Sometimes people don't understand parables. You have to just come out and say it. So now the question is, when you know that this thing that you need to say needs to be said, but the way you want to say it, you're not sure if it is in love or not. Like that's most people just don't say anything because they want to say the truth in love. But you need to say what needs to be said. So how do you balance that?
Fantastic. And sorry, just if I don't mind your name, and I don't think we've met, so it would be great to have your name before your question. Thank you. He'll hold it for you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, my name is Bright.
Bright.
Yes. Okay, so I wanted to ask, we believe that God is a miracle-working God, and he can do all things. So there's this argument I had with someone, and I wanted to get clarity. If God can do all things, will he do all things? And in the case study is, someone says the genotype used to be SS, and then God changed it to AA. Can God do such thing? Has he done such thing? That's my question.
Thank you very much for that question, Bright. Okay. And there's a question Nana has a question. So we have our 5 now. Nana has a question. Nana said, I have heard a pastor with a very large following constantly say he has seen people lose their miracles because they didn't testify of it publicly. Am I right to find this bothersome? Is this biblical? All right. So, okay, easy questions as usual. So let's just freestyle. Abi? What was the second question? Lola's question. Yes, ye are gods. How are we to relate with it? So, the first mention is in Psalm 82. Second mention is in John 10, maybe John, not 34, I can't remember, 34, 35, 36, where Jesus then quotes Psalm 82. Now, if you look at Psalm 82, you would notice that it's really, mostly probably talking about judges in Israel, right? It's talking about judges in Israel. And it is saying the judges are gods when they stand in the place of God to do what God does. And that's not just about judges. I'll give you an example. You have the kings in Israel. The kings in Israel are God to Israel in that they represent the king, God as king. So when God says to David, "You are now my son," 2 Samuel 7, 12 to 14, "You are my son." What he means is this: Israel is God's son. Exodus chapter 4 says to Pharaoh, not Exodus 4. At the end of the plagues, because you did not allow my son to go, I will kill your own firstborn. So Israel is God's son, adopted son, in terms of nation. Now, the king of Israel is like a some representative of all of Israel. So the king represents God represents the people to God and God to the people. So when he's ruling, the king is ruling, he's actually doing God's work, especially when he's doing it in a way that God wants him to do that. So the king, in his function, in his subordinate function, is God. The Bible says God is our lawgiver, he's our judge. The lawgivers, the Levites, in a sense, right, were also God. The judges, as they judge, is also God as well. You see the point? As long as we are standing in place of God, and particularly doing what God is meant to do, we are gods. That is why even human beings, there's a sense in which we are God. Because we are God's vice regent on the earth. He was not created, animals were not created in God's image. We are already like God. So that is the context. It was a specific context, 82. Because later it then says, I called you people God so that you serve in my space. But you will die like mortal men. So it's not saying they are gods like divine without life that they can't. No, it's qualified. So now Jesus presses that argument when people are now talking against Jesus' divinity. And how can you say you are equal to God? And just like, okay, if I just even take scripture in a very loose way, you're arguing like you have to do deeper exegesis. All right, how do you handle it? You are God. Didn't he say that? Right? And that's the context. So we want to be careful there that when it says you are God, you're not saying you are gods like, we don't have creative power like God. We're not God. Right? In fact, another way to show you that we are not God. The one truth that goes throughout the entire Bible, beginning to the end, there's one God. Then now it now says you are gods. Do we now have plural gods? Is the Bible now advocating a polytheism? No, it's not. But it's saying this one God, we are created in his image, but also when we work as he does, we are just like him. That's the point. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, it's just the rest of that, or if you read the following verses there, it kind of gives you the following qualifiers. You will die like men mortal. You will fall like every other ruler, to Femi's earlier point about the fact that they were representing God.
Okay. You want to?
Okay, yes. Right. Let me see if I can attempt your question about whether God can do certain miracles. I suppose the one sort of good and clear answer is that yes, God can do. There is nothing that is beyond God's power to do. I think there's a way we can just rest in just knowing that there is nothing that is beyond God's power to do. The question, which I don't think we have an answer to, is will God do the miracle that we expect him to do? I don't know that we can answer that question. I don't even think that is a question for us to answer, but except for God, right? And you ask a specific, your context is for a specific miracle. And I dare say, I don't know if it is personal or if it is, somebody you know personally. The encouragement I will give is to first of all trust that God can do anything. God can do anything. And with that trust that we have in God, here is what we can do. We can go to God in prayer. Here is one thing that we know that God has promised us. That if we come to him in prayer, that he always hears us. And despite what some people might think, he always answers us as well. Now, the answer might not be what we think or what we want it to be, because God is the one that knows best. But again, it goes back to that first answer that I gave, that God can do any miracle, but does God choose to do this miracle, giving his own sovereignty and his own omniscience over everything? Does he choose to do this thing, or does he think it is the best thing for this person's life, or does he think it is the best thing at that point in time? It is left for God to answer that. However, what can we do? We can trust that God, who does everything. As Christians, we can trust that God, who we know can do anything, will hear us and answer us when we call to him in prayer. And so that's what we do as our responsibility. We cry out to him in prayer to ask him to do what we want him to do. Right?
So if I may just add to that is the God who can do any and everything, meaning he's almighty. He has the ability to do anything that he wants, anything in line with his character. He can't lie. All right? So he's not powerful enough to lie. But the God that can do anything within his character is the God that is also all-wise. For instance, do you buy everything you can afford? No. Why? Because you have wisdom to know that everything that you can afford does not mean everything that you need. You see the point? So you apply wisdom with the ability. So sometimes wisdom restrains the ability that you have. And if that can happen to us with our limited wisdom, how about the one who has all wisdom? The worst thing you can have is a God who is almighty and is not all wise. He's going to do some foolish things, but it will always be effective. That's why Satan has a lot of might. Satan doesn't have all might. Satan has a lot of, he has some evil wisdom, but he doesn't have all wisdom. Imagine if Satan had all power. My God, that would be terrible, right? So God is all-knowing, but he's all-powerful, he's all-knowing, but he's also all-good. And so whatever his wisdom constrains him from doing, or makes him do, it's always going to be good. That's how. But you don't want a God that is just all-powerful alone. Now, but in his goodness and his wisdom, he then sometimes does the things that we desire and we ask for. Miracles like the one you quoted, right? I don't know of anybody that has happened, but I've heard of people. I don't know anyone personally, but I've heard of people who have made that testimony. Were they lying? If they were lying, that's bad for them. But do I have reason enough to believe that it can happen? Yes. He raised Jesus from the dead. He raised Lazarus. So that's worse. That's a bigger miracle, right? So that's what we'll say to that. Okay. What? Is that follow-up to this one? Okay. Tamu has gone on holiday. We need a mic. Okay, you say it and we'll repeat it.
We'll repeat,
okay. So the point can you be all good if you have the ability to do good, but you don't do it? Well, the problem there is defining good outside of God. So God always does good. Always. There is no good without God. good first came from God. So if God decides not to do it, it is not good. If God decides to do it, it is good. Now, but let me use the analogy, because you said that the analogy we gave was one with limited power, right? With limited ability, limited resources. And so they couldn't do. But the question is, the real analogy, the real parallel is this. Within the resources I do have, do I still do everything that I want to do? So it's now not outside of the resources that, outside of the things that my resources cannot make me do. But from the resources that having the resources to be able to do specific things, do I still do them? You understand? And the answer is no. That doesn't mean, but it may be out of wisdom. So for instance, I may be able to afford for my children to travel outside of the country 3 times a year. But I can only afford that if I stop paying their school fees. That I have been able to do it, but that's a lack of wisdom, and it's shown itself not to be good. So you see, it's within my resources, but it is foolish, and therefore it isn't good. Now, the analogy then is that God has all the resources. But the fact that he has all resources doesn't mean that him using all those resources to do all the things we want will make him good. We are not the ones that define good. We don't ultimately know what's good for ourselves. It is God that ultimately knows what is good for us. I hope that helps. Okay. Did you want to add to that? No. Okay. Yeah, that's where, yes. No, let me take Nana's question. Let me take Nana. Where are you last? The first shall be, we're just very biblical.
We'll take Chika's question.
We'll take Chika. Go down. All right. I'll go with Nana's question. So Nana's question was about the pastor that says people lost their testimony because they didn't their miracle because they didn't testify publicly about it. So I don't think I totally get it, but let me say what I think it's saying. A miracle was done to someone, like the person had received something. And then the person didn't testify about it publicly. And because of that, the miracle was sort of undone. So let's assume somebody was ill with hepatitis. The person was prayed for. The hepatitis went. They saw at the doctor it wasn't there. They didn't testify about the healing publicly. And then the hepatitis came back. Maybe something like that. Or somebody maybe received a financial miracle.
I've heard of a job. Like,
you
get a job and you didn't testify.
It's not as simple a question as I think some people think. Because there are so many layers of things there that it depends on definitions of things. So let me explain. What do you mean by, the person means by testifying publicly? If by testifying publicly, what the person is trying to get at is there is a sense in which you are not, God did something to you in public and you are not showing the same gratitude. So that the person is talking about ingratitude. If that is what they mean, if that is the main thing that public testimony is gearing at, because that's not the only thing that public testimony, I can testify with people, right? I don't have to publicly testify. But if that's what the preacher is trying to use, then I can see something in it. Because when Jesus healed 10 lepers, only one came back to say thanks. And Jesus said that, well, he was the only one that was whole. In other words, the full package of healing, that person got the full package of healing, right? That is not just healing in his body, but healing in his soul. So there is a sense, and the Bible, I don't think we emphasize this enough. The Bible is as hard on things like sexual immorality and as it is on ingratitude. The Bible says that actually when you know people are really depraved, not just that they sin, when you know people are really depraved, it's that they have no thanksgiving in their hearts. It's awful. So if that's what the person is trying to get at, I say, okay, I can see where there are problems with doing that. And I can see how that can stop God from doing certain things for you. Second, if, I may be straining it here, if the person, by saying lack of public testifying about it, is also a way, I know I'm stretching here, but it's a way that the person is is evidence of the person sinning, evidence of the person sinning in some way, that is the presence of sin that is stopping the person from doing that. Then the passage we quoted, John chapter 5, where I think it was 12 and 13, or is it 13 and 14? That it then says that something worse may come upon you. Okay, maybe. So it could be that the person is really inarticulate and a bit clumsy in what he's trying to communicate. And sometimes preachers, when we get on stage, our English grammar logic sort of fails us. So maybe. So that's the best case scenario. Other than that, I find it, if I just go on the surface of exactly what you think it's saying, I find that difficult. I find that difficult too. I mean, because sometimes, what do you mean by public? If it's among 10 people, it's public, So I don't know. But also, I do think that, if God has done it, he's done it. Now, it doesn't mean, like I said, with the sin thing, it doesn't mean that something worse cannot happen to you. It can. It just can. But I think if he ties it too narrowly to public testimony, that's the thing I worry about. So it's, I've tried to be as charitable as I can be by expanding what some of those things could mean. But if I take it narrowly, I struggle to find not just a particular verse of scripture, but theologically thinking about it, I struggle to land where that preacher lands. So, yeah, I don't know. Francis may land there.
No. No, but I don't land there. I do think, though, that there is something to be said for not necessarily testifying publicly, but something that maybe we don't. Maybe I would say, I don't know if I'll say it's a dying. It's not so much dying, but maybe we don't take as seriously as we used to do before, and that is just really testifying about what God has done for us. Maybe the preacher, I don't know who this preacher is, was trying to encourage that. If that was what he was trying to do, but obviously the reason he gives is there's no basis for that. But I do think that is something that, maybe we should think about doing a little bit more. Psalm 66 is, for instance, just talking about how, come and see what the Lord has done for me. I think, you do two things when you testify. Again, when I'm not talking, whether you want to talk about it being public or whether it's to your friends or to people, but you do two things, at least that I know of. One is that you are publicly just expressing your gratitude to God. That's one. But two is that you're encouraging other people. You're encouraging other people in the God that we believe to show people what the God that we believe in does for his people. And that's one of the biggest testimonies of the gospel, to show people what the God of the gospel does. So whilst I don't land there.
Therefore can do for them.
And therefore can do for them, exactly. And whilst I don't land in this where, you will lose your miracle if you don't testify, I will definitely encourage that we do more of testimonies. Identify the things that God has done in your life. We used to do this thing where, count your blessings. You will see that, I think it's something that we should start to, or should I say, be conscious about doing.
So this not adding to the thing. I do want to say that many times we take people's testimonies and we send them through our weekly email newsletter. So please, if you do have a testimony, I know that the Tomiwa they would want to receive it, or Sharon. Please, if you have a testimony of what God has done for you, please don't hold it back, right? It is to thank God, as Francis said, but also to testify to what God has done. And take Chika's question.
Yeah, Chika, I says also a bit of a personal question. But one that I would dare say strikes home to, if not everybody, certainly myself, about, and I think one of the key things here is just wisdom. Wisdom in knowing how to tell somebody something that you think might be somehow, just say, hurtful towards the person. And I think that is essentially the answer. It is asking God for wisdom to be able to tell people things in a way that they will be able to take it. There are a couple of things, and I think PF actually said something about this during the sermon, about getting to the place where you are able to tell somebody something that is truthful. Getting to the place. And I think that is where some work needs to be done, right? I'm thinking about on a one-on-one basis now. Developing your relationship with someone such that you are able to actually tell something to someone without the fear of, oh, if I say this thing to this person, how is this person going to take it? That's one. Two, even if you've developed that level of relationship, there is also the wisdom of knowing the right time to be able to say something to someone. Thinking about where they are in their lives, thinking about what they are going through, and deciding on whether this is the time to say something, or maybe I will hold back on saying this particular thing. And then finally, how certain things are said is also very key, because and you said it yourself, because this thing that I want to say, and I think that is actually very wise, to be able to identify, first of all, that this thing I want to say is going to be somehow, rather than just, blotting out everything. And then, because you know that, you would start to think and, at least, or even if you want to ask for advice as to what is the best way to be able to tell this person this thing, right? So I think it's just asking God for wisdom, in sort of handling these things. But I think if you want to tell somebody a hard truth, you have to do the work of preparing yourself or your relationship to be able to tell that person the hard truth.
If I may add, I'll just say, so to take what Francis said and just maybe do a little bit of analysis with it. For those who are in communication, maybe, if you are core communication, but you have to do a lot of communication at an organizational level or what have you. Some who have gone deep in this will almost talk like Christians. Let me tell you, communication is not really a thing about the mouth. It's a thing about the heart. If you make communication about the mouth alone, it means that your heart is functioning, especially in hard places. Your heart will be functioning from a place of frustration. There is nothing that opens our mouth very quickly than frustration. So remember, communication is not something of the mouth, it's of the heart. What did Jesus say? Out of the abundance of what? The heart, the mouth speaks. So if you want to control how you speak with your mouth, don't control your mouth, control your heart. And that's why communication is actually an act of love. If we are Christians, if we are doing it well, it's an act of love. So the first thing you have to be able to say is, why do I want to tell this person this thing? Is it just, let me just get this thing out? You see, that's frustration. I just need to get it out. It's like, when you have diarrhea, right? You just get, and we know whatever comes out of diarrhea is not nice. It's something. There's an emoji for it, right? That's when direct things come out of our mouths. It may be true. It's just that the content may be true, the form may not be true. Right? The content may be true, the form may not be true. Form matters. Jesus is the Word. He's the way, the truth, and the life. But the Word became incarnate. So there is the content, but there's also the form. And that's why we talk about tone. So it's not just the truth, but itself, the form. That's why we speak in love. So when you say speak in love, love is not just a thing of the mouth, it's also a thing of the heart. Now, this love then works out in two things, right? Two things that are needed. Humility and courage. Humility and courage. So before you now go and tell somebody a hard truth, you need to say, who is the person that is speaking this hard truth? It's somebody that is in need of some hard truth too. So that you're not standing from this place talking down to somebody here. You have to remember yourself. Now, remember, you are talking first to yourself. So this is what people call, this is why emotional intelligence and social intelligence come together. Emotional intelligence is talking about the person who is going to say the truth. Social intelligence is thinking about the person who we are going to say the truth to. So you are first thinking about yourself and you say, hey, I mustn't work in my head or in my heart that I'm better than this person. I must remember I was the one that was also in need of correction on this thing. This thing I even want to talk to this person about, I have actually struggled with it myself. So that when you are then talking with the person, it's coming from a place of humility. But the second thing is courage. Now, sometimes the courage is, for some people it is, some people do the emotional intelligence thing so much, like, me too, I'm in need of God's help. Well, so eventually you keep quiet. Actually, that's not the issue. The issue is that you lack courage because you have to say it if you truly love the person. But then there's also the courage of doing the work that, in order to be able to say, this is how best to say it. I tell people, I was still telling someone last week, if I'm having a serious meeting with someone in church for any reason or all that, there's hardly a meeting I go into where I don't spend, depending on how long it's going to be, but I spend at least about 15 to 30 minutes itemizing the conversation, the way I want the conversation to go. Where am I going to start? Where am I going to end? This thing I'm going to say, I'm going to go from this to this to this. That working out so that it's not random, it's actually an act of love. I've worked up like, man, this thing is going to be difficult. So how do I start? Do I start with just saying, look, you know I love you, but there are some hard truths? Or do I start with saying, let's talk about that thing we were talking about yesterday, and then I use that one to now lead? I have to think about it. So usually, sometimes people back off because they are not willing to do the hard work that can actually make that situation better. I was still speaking to someone about this yesterday. I told someone about something that they had to do. This was the right thing. I showed the person the conviction. Behind it, the person agreed. But it meant that they were going to have some hard conversations with some people that they normally wouldn't like to. In fact, they'd already told the people that I'm going in the right direction. And I was saying, guy, you are meant to go in the left. And the person agreed that convictionally he should have gone in the left. But after a few days, the person now went and thought, man, it's going to be difficult to have this conversation with these people. Now, he now started saying, is it really that I should be going left? Or maybe really I should be going right? You see, the fear started making him start to question the conviction. And obviously, he talked to somebody else to talk to me. And then I convinced the other person, and that person is true. They'll go back. I told the person, I said, what this person is running away from is the difficult conversation. Yeah. But if this person embraces this is the right thing to do, the thing that should come next is spend an hour mapping it out. Spend 30 minutes praying. God, allow these people to be receptive. How do I go about it? Look for the right time. So, work out love in your heart and let that love come out through humility, know the person who is speaking the truth, and through courage, know the person that you are speaking the truth to. Okay? Now, and over a period of time, we continue. This is a spiritual discipline because, again, if you just try and say, I'm applying it to this next situation, then you are being pragmatic. You're actually not working on your heart. You just solve that problem. This is a spiritual discipline we must continue to work our heart in. Then you will get better at not being condescending to people, at not bursting out in anger, or at not withdrawing from difficult conversations. Work that love deep into your heart. Voeru, positive, that Proverbs 12:14. If we make positive confessions, does that change the course of our lives? I think yes and no. Let me go with the no. And it's something you stated. That the act of the positive confession itself, the act of the positive confession itself creates a new reality. That on its own, this is the means through which the reality is made. So if I say, I'm a millionaire, by constantly saying I'm a millionaire, I am getting the universe to actually create realities for me that makes me a millionaire. No, that's not Christian. And I think what isn't Christian is not true. I do think, though, that some people that look at people that say that go in the other extreme and are not sufficiently Christian in how much the Bible connects what we say with our mouth with our actions. Now, the Bible doesn't necessarily say what you say with your mouth is causative, as that it is reflective of what's in your heart, but that there is a way when you say things over and over again, it is now meditative. So I remember, like today, when we were praying and we were singing a song, though I walk through valleys, I'll fear no evil. I said, it may not be your true reality now, but sing it. The more you are singing it, you are actually meditating. You are trying to put it down into your heart. Because this thing I'm saying about Tika that I said, work it in your heart. What is the way to work in your heart? Part of it, I would say, is speak it. But we're not saying speak, I'm creating the reality. It is a meditative act. And that is, I think, in a very pragmatic world, and I would say that as people living in Lagos, like Lagosians, to get through this city, pragmatism is a huge thing. Like, I need something that works. I need something that, I'm sick, give me a pill, right? I have a big, deeper illness, give me a consultant, right? I need to get rich, give me an investment, right? We don't want to study anything, we just want to do things that work. And so we rush a lot. And so we're not built for meditation. But things like that are in the realm of being meditative. The old spirituals used to have, there's a prayer. I need to get back to that prayer. I used to say it a lot. And, monks and all of that used to say, Jesus, whenever you want to meditate on a sinful action or something and all of that, simple prayer. Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. And you keep saying it over and over and over and over again. Now, that can be an empty babble. Or it can be a meditatively powerful tool. Because that's what Bartimaeus said. Son of David, have mercy on me. So he said, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Jesus, son. And you're first saying it. You're first trying to, like, man, my son came in here, my whatever. I'm thinking about my meal and all that. So you're saying, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. So now the things are going away. Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Jesus who died for me, have mercy on me. Jesus who died for me. Jesus who is the Son of David who was long promised. If he was promised and he came, that means God keeps his promises. He's sure. Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Mercy is what God does. God shows mercy. I don't think I deserve his mercy, but mercy is not deserving. Who is giving me mercy? It is Jesus, the promised one, the Son of David. Who is he having mercy on? He's having mercy on me, who the undeserving of sinners, but his mercies are sure every morning. They are renewed to me every morning. Have mercy on me, have mercy on me, have mercy on me. Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Before you know it, you start seeing Jesus in a beautiful way. You start seeing a picture of Jesus. You start seeing him holding your hand. You're saying, have mercy on him. Before you know it, you are now worshiping. Do you see it? It's not just empty babbles. In the act of constantly saying it, I am getting the clutter out. Because here's the secret, bonus. We say that I just said that we don't meditate enough. Right? The truth is that there are forces that make us meditate on them. So, I say it all the time, our social media, what a lot of us do is we meditate. Social media, we meditate. And I know this for sure. Do you know how I can prove it? You know how I can prove it? Sometimes maybe I finish writing a sermon and it's like 12 a.m. And I put up a story. Because usually I'll just go to social media and put up a story about something. And in 10 minutes, at 12 a.m. something, 10 minutes, I see some of you have checked the story out. And I'm like, what are you still doing with your phone checking stories at this point? And the truth is, I'm not trying to judge the exact time, but I'm saying, look, we meditate on those things. And it's in those spheres that we get a lot of news, a lot of bad news, a lot of things. So what is happening? You think you're not meditating, but you scrolled now. The last 20 things you scrolled have been pointing to a particular direction. Guys, you are meditating. You are just being tricked into another form of meditation. Don't be surprised then, the things that come out of your mouth. They are the result of what has been in your heart through your meditation. So what we are called to do is to meditate. So it is in that regard. So if I meditate, I've meditated on how nothing can work for me in this Nigeria. Nothing can work for me in this Nigeria. Then I'm not going to say anything positive about my business or anything. And once I am not, I can't see any opportunities. So it's in that regard that you can positively confess. Now, the last thing I'll say is that on that word positive, as long as it's positivity rooted in truth, because positivism is a way of trying to ignore everything negative. And when you ignore everything negative, you're ignoring reality, right? Being positive in the truth of God is to say, this is how God works things. This is why I will not lose hope. This is why I'll trust in God. And through that same God who has true reality in front of him, this is how I deal with this negative thing. This is how I build it into my model. So as long as we're not talking positivism and saying, I'm not sick when you are sick. Right? You know how they say, I'm very strong. No, it's not like that. Rather than say, I'm strong, just say, Jesus, heal me. You are the great healer. You are, is it Jehovah Rapha? You are all of, speak the truth. You are speaking the truth about Jesus. You are speaking the truth about your condition. and now you are speaking the truth about Jesus, to what he can do to your condition. That's better than saying, I am not sick. Because if you say I'm not sick, then Jesus say, why are you bothering me? You know, that kind of thing. So, yeah, that's what I'll say on that.
Just two things very quickly. One is, because I used to be on the wrong side of this before, right? But one of the ways that I think I heard somebody talk about this, about when you are actually saying something, you can hear yourself. You can hear yourself. And when you are listening to stuff, you're actually listening, right? If you are listening to the things that influence you, you are listening. And those things influence you and they change your behavior, they change the outcomes. But also when you are saying something you're actually hearing yourself as well. So in a sense, that just kind of convinced me about the fact that what you actually say does affect your life and it causes reality. That's one. Two, this particular chapter in the book of Proverbs is a series of contrasting verses. Like most of the rest of the book of Proverbs, really. It starts with, this is what bad people do, this is what will happen to good people. This is how a good wife is, this is how a bad wife is. And in this particular area that you pointed out, it does the same thing. In verse 13, it says, evildoers are trapped by their sinful talk, and so the innocent escape trouble. And then it goes to the one you quoted. From the fruit of the lips, people are filled with good things, and the work of their hands brings them reward. So first of all, it doesn't divorce the fact that you have to work hard for the reward you are going to get. I wanted to just, if there was any relation between, if I say something and the thing just appears, no, that is not what the verse is saying. But at the same time, it's also telling you that, it's also affirming most of what PF has just said, that even on the negative side of things, evildoers themselves, the things they say, it affects them. So also, if you read another translation of that as well, in fact, it even extends it to say, in a sense, the words that you say, they are wise things. If you say, if people of God use wise words, it brings about the good of not just your life, but things around you.